So good morning and welcome. Welcome to the Sunday morning service for the Center for Spiritual Living, Space Coast. My name is Reverend Dr. Ron Fox, and we're so glad you can join us. And as we begin every week, in case there's somebody watching this morning or some other time, if you've never been to a Center for Spiritual Living before, we believe there's one God, many paths to that God, and we're here to love, honor, and support you no matter what your divine path is. And the Center for Spiritual Living Space Coast is a safe haven for people of all beliefs and lifestyles. Whoever you are and wherever you find yourself on your journey of faith, you're welcome here. And to begin our service this morning, two of our practitioners, Edgar and Patrice Rivera, are going to open us up with a prayer and then with a spiritual reading. And with them, by the way, is their really cute grandson, Donald, who's visiting from Colorado.
And this prayer is spoken from the eternal I, the collective one. As I take that deep breath in, I let go. I release everything that has transpired before this moment. I release any thoughts of negativity, of judgment, of anger. I release anything other than that remembering of who I truly am. And from this place in heart where I remember who I truly am, I absolutely know that there is only one. There is one love, one joy, one peace, one harmony, one. And from that place of oneness, I remember that it is a collective good, that any judgment on my part is something inside of me. I release, I let go, I remember. It is only Abba, it is only Spirit, it is only universe, it is only God. There is only one. And from this place, I know that that collective I stands for all of us everywhere. It stands for everything everywhere. Everything I can see and can't see. Everything I experience and everywhere experience. It is all Abba. It is all the one. It is all joy. It is all peace. It is all love. And standing here in this place, I smile. I relish and enjoy knowing that that peace is always mine within. And from here, I know that this gathering of like-minded hearts and like-minded souls is such a blessing unto the world. I know that each and every of us, collective I, that are right here, right now, are absolutely blessed. So much more than we ever know. And I know that I stand in that place of remembering my blessings, remembering to give gratitude, remembering that there's always another perspective, remembering one. And from this place, I absolutely know that I am so grateful for the words of Reverend Dr. Ron Fox. I am so grateful for the collective thoughts and consciousness that we hold right here, right now. I am so grateful for I know that the words spoke and the hearts that are collectively here embellish my joy, uplift my peace, help me to remember the truth of me. And so in that place of absolute joy, of absolute gratitude, and of absolute oneness, I let go, for I know when I step out of the way and allow Abba to do what Abba does, it is miraculously wonderful. And so it is.
Today's reading is from Science of Mind textbook. God neither punishes nor rewards. Such a concept of God would create an anthropomorphic dualism A house divided against itself, such a house cannot stand. Life is a blessing or a curse according to the use we make of it. In the long run, no one judges us but ourselves, and no one condemns us but ourselves. We believe in a law that governs all things and all people. If we make mistakes, we suffer. We are our own reward and our own punishment.
Thank you, Patrice, and thank you, Edgar. So, my title this morning is Everything I Know I Learned at the Car Wash. And I'll explain the significance of that in a moment. But what I'm going to speak on today, what I'd like to speak on is judgment. And I want to begin with a quote from Ernest Holmes, who founded the Center for Spiritual Living. He wrote, "The song of hate must be laid down if we are to sing a hymn of praise. We must let go of any sense of separation from good if we are to become conscious of union with God." So let me explain where I came up with this title. So let me give you a little background. Years ago, Becky and I lived in San Clemente, California. And I had my own business. I think I was going to ministerial school, and the business did really well. And I said to Becky, I'm going to splurge, and we're going to go out and we're going to get a new car, and we're going to get a Mercedes. Now, when we priced them, we realized we couldn't afford a new one, but I got a really, really nice used Mercedes. It was 4-door, and it was a beautiful color of blue. And I wanted to keep it really shining. So at least once a month, I would take it to the San Clemente car wash. So here's my stories. So I go in one day, and now in this car wash, the people that worked on your car were all young Mexican men and women. And when I say young, some were teenagers and some looked like they were in their 20s, but they were all young and they all hustled like crazy. And I go in one Saturday morning, and that's who's there, with one exception. And the one exception is a man who's obviously Mexican also, but he looks then like I look now. He had totally white hair and a white beard. And I thought, oh my God, I intuitively know with all these young go-getters, I'm getting him to work on my car. And that is exactly what happened. And he gets to working on my car, and it's taking forever. And at some point, I start thinking, wow, is he slow? I'm going to be here forever. And then at some point, I realize he's in slow. He's just doing a terrific job. And it did take him a long time. But when I went, they raise your hand in this car wash when your car is done. And when I went to get it, he said to me, "This is really a pretty car." And so I tried to do an extra good job for you. And I was so taken. I had the tip money in my hand, but instead of giving him what I had in my hand, I opened up my wallet, and I don't remember exactly, but I probably had $25 in there. And I gave him that for a tip. And actually, when I went over, I thanked him for doing what a great job he did. And I remember I went home and I told Becky how initially, just by sight, I really wanted someone else to work on my car, and I couldn't have asked for a better job. Now, you'd expect that somebody with a normal degree of intelligence, maybe even with less than a normal degree, would have learned from that experience. but I didn't. So several times later, I don't remember, a month or two later, I go back to the car wash, and this time I don't see that fellow. This time there are all the same fellows and women that I described before, and right in the middle of them is one white teenager. And again, I knew that was my person. And I remember to this day, I said a little prayer. I said, oh God, not him. I have one of them at home, and I know how lazy mine is and all his friends are. So please, not him. And of course, when my car comes out, he's the one that goes over and he puts down some of the spray cans on the car, and then he walks away. And he's gone for what to me seems like forever. And it's a beautiful day. It's Saturday morning. I want to get going. And he's not working on my car. He's just letting it sit and sit and sit. And then I start to get worried because, you know, if you've ever gotten your car after a rainstorm and you have those, and it dries and you have those little spots all over, makes your car look like it has the measles. I feel that's what my car's going to look worse on the way out than it did on the way in because he's not working on it. And at some point he comes out, and my face must have shown how upset I was, because he walked right over to me and he said, sir, is that your car? And I said, yes, it is. And he said, well, let me explain what's going on. He said, that's a really nice car. And we just washed a whole bunch of our towels and rags, and they're in the dryer now. So I'm waiting till they get done so I can use a new batch on that nice car. And he started to walk away, and then he came back as if he could read my mind. And he said, oh, by the way, if the car gets too dry, don't worry about it. I'll take it around and rerun it through the car wash for you. I went home and I said to Becky, you know, I think I learn more spirituality in that car wash than I do anywhere else. I just need to remember the lessons. You know, judgment clouds our judgment. When we judge, we can make bad decisions. We take actions that perhaps are unfair. We say things that we might regret later. So ask yourself, and I'm going to talk more about this in a little bit, but ask yourself, have you ever been judged unfairly? And if you have, how did that make you feel? You know, judgment can limit our ability to show compassion. It stops us from connecting with other people. And Mark Ian Barash wrote a book called Field Notes on a Compassionate Life. And he said, compassion isn't easy. It's a belief that what we do to others, we do to ourselves. And he said that that's why so often the sweetest people are those who have been badly wounded, because they know what it feels like. So I want to give you another example from my life. And one of the things I've talked about before, so I won't do it now, is how so many of my friends turned on me when I grew my hair. When I grew my hair long, I was the same person, but I had people shun me and people make fun of me to my face. And so one morning, again in San Clemente, I was in Albertsons, the local supermarket, just with myself and my youngest son. And there was a young boy, 15, 16, in front of us. And this kid had his hair dyed bright red, and he had it spiked up, and he had some piercings. And I couldn't believe it. There were people all around him that not just were openly pointing at him, but making snide comments about him. And my son looked up at me, and in a really loud voice, I honestly don't remember exactly what I said, but I said something to the effect of, I kind of like his hair. Looks good to me. Looks different, showing how unique he is. And he turned around, this young boy, and he mouthed to me, "Thank you." And when my son and I walked out, my son said to me, "How come you did that?" And I said, "I know what it feels like to be mocked, just because you look a little different." And my son said to me, "That was cool, Dad. That was cool." Meister Eckhart wrote, "You need to love all persons as yourself, esteeming them and considering them alike. What happens to another, whether it be joy or sorrow, happens to you." So Rabbi Harold Kushner, in one of his books, he talks about Yom Kippur, which is the Jewish high holy day. It's known as the Day of Atonement. And he said, people come to the synagogue that day not to be called sinners. They come not to hear what they did wrong, but to be assured that their misdeeds hasn't separated them from God. They want God to forgive their shortcomings. They want to be cleansed to begin the new year. They aren't looking to be judged. They're looking for forgiveness and for acceptance. And Rabbi Kushner says that religion sets the standards for us, like saying to us, you could have done better. You could be more. And he said, those aren't harsh words. Those are words of encouragement. They speak to our ability to grow. And if we haven't been as good as we want, that God still loves us, that God isn't expecting perfection from us. God's just expecting that we do our best. And when we do, God accepts us just as we are. So I think maybe a week or so ago, I spoke about the book, Ask Yourself This by Reverend Wendy Craig Purcell. And she has a series of questions in the book that she discusses. And one of the questions she has is, who or what am I blaming? Who or what am I blaming? And she said that, we're responsible for the quality of our life. And that's the cornerstone of all spiritual and personal growth. And she tells a story in there about, it's apocryphal, about a story named Bill and Mary, who are a couple celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. And Bill turns to Mary when the party's over and they're by themselves. And he says, Mary, I've been thinking. You've been by my side all these years. Remember when we almost lost the farm because of the drought? You were right there with me. And remember when I fell and broke my hip? Again, you were right there with me. And remember when we almost lost all our savings because we made a couple of bad investments? You were right there with me. And he said, Mary, I've been thinking, you must be bad luck. And the point is, Bill doesn't get it. It's way easier to blame than it is to take responsibility. When we take responsibility, it's empowering. When we blame, we can't change anything. We give up our power. When we take responsibility, we take charge of our life. Richard Bach, who wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull and several other books, he wrote, every person, all the events of your life are there because you have drawn them there. What you choose to do with them is up to you. You know, in life, every day, we all make assumptions. The problem is we believe that our assumptions are the truth. In fact, we can swear they're real. We make assumptions about what others are thinking and what others are doing. The question is, or some questions we can ask is, what assumptions are you making about your own life? What assumptions are you making about your job? What assumptions are you making about other people? So I read an article this week by a lady named Marissa Hackinson, and the title of it was Accepting Others. And she makes 3 points that I'd like to share with you this morning. The first one is, everyone has their own path that is right for them. And she said, you know, when we try to convince other people to walk the path that we think is right for them, it almost never works out. The second point she makes is we can still love people even when we have differences. She said, you know, you don't have to stop loving somebody just because you have differences of opinion. We can celebrate differences rather than being threatened by them. And perhaps we can even learn from them. And she says, you know, when we accept other people, we become more accepting of ourselves. And that leads to her third point, which is, rather than trying to change others, accept yourself or focus on yourself. She said, are you honoring your own path? Are you being true to yourself? And what would happen if you were at peace with what's going on now? So I want to shift for a minute. I want to talk about judging ourselves and accepting ourselves. And so in the book, The Fifth Agreement, Don Miguel Ruiz and his son, Don Jose Ruiz, talk about that. And they say, look at the judgments that you have about yourself. And they said, every judgment is an opinion. It's a point of view. And it wasn't there when you were born. You learned it from your parents, maybe from a spouse, from a sibling. Maybe you learned it from society. Opinions about how you should be, opinions about how you should look, opinions about how you should not be, opinions about what you should do. And they ask the question, are they true? You are what you believe. So, what do you believe you are? What do you believe? What you believe is creating the life that you're experiencing. And the truth is that you're unique. Accepting yourself means being okay with who you are just as you are, acknowledging that you've always done your best and seeing the value in how you've lived your life. You know, we all get caught up in stories. So ask yourself, the story you tell about your life, did you write it? Did your wife write it? Your husband write it? Your significant other? Your mother or father? A teacher? Your friend? If you don't like the story that's being told in your life, write a new one. Instead of just being the actor in the story of your life, become the writer and become the director. So I want to tell you something, a story that Anthony DeMillo, the late Anthony DeMillo, a Jesuit priest, wrote. And I'll tell you the significance of this story after I get done. And just as an aside, those of you on our Tuesday call are either going to love this story or hate it. You'll have to tell me later. So here's the story. Guru sits down to do evening worship. And as he does his evening worship, every evening, he has a cat that kind of interrupts the worship. The cat walks through, and the cat sometimes meows, and he distracts the people that are coming to evening worship. So the guru makes arrangements to have the cat tied up, and the service goes better. After the guru dies, his disciples continue to tie the cat up. And after the cat dies, they get another cat and tie that cat up. And centuries later, learned papers were written by the guru's disciples on the liturgical significance of tying a cat up while evening worship is performed. Here's the point of the story. The story is a reminder to review what we do and to ask why we do what we do, why we say what we say, and to ask, is what we're doing still appropriate? Is what we're doing still achieving what it was intended? Or is it becoming a distraction? So I want to close with a piece from the book titled Do It Anyway by Kent Keith. And he calls these the Paradoxical Commandments. People are illogical, unreasonable, and self-centered. Love them anyway. If you do good, people will accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Do good anyway. If you are successful, you will win false friends and enemies. Succeed anyway. The good you do today will be forgotten tomorrow. Do good anyway. Honesty and frankness make you vulnerable. Be honest and frank anyway. The biggest men and women with the biggest ideas can be shot down by the smallest men and women with the smallest ideas. Think big anyway. People favor underdogs, but follow only top dogs. Fight for a few underdogs anyway. What you spend years building may be destroyed overnight. Build anyway. People really need help, but may attack if you help them. Help people anyway. And lastly, give the world the best you have, and you'll get kicked in the teeth. Give the world the best you have anyway. Thank you for being here this morning. God bless you. Have a great week.